Hi there, Peter McKenzie here with Rincon Property Management. I wanted to make a quick update to our last video on how we are dealing with the COVID-19 coronavirus situation as it relates to your rental property. So since our last video, quite a bit has changed. We have more regulation on landlords that is affecting what we can and can't do. So I'll just briefly go over a couple of the highlights. This is not meant to be super detailed, and I'll get into why it's not super detailed. But just to kind of by way of review, we have the CARES Act, which is the federal government's ordinance on how they're dealing with this COVID-19, and it does have an effect on rental properties. So we cannot evict anybody, we can't give a notice to move, and it's pretty much in effect 120 days from March 27th, which is when they first enacted it. In addition to the CARE Act, the state of California, the governor, has released a new executive order on top of the one previously that we had in our last video. They basically cleaned up some loopholes. They made it more restrictive and essentially shut down evictions statewide. So that's still in place. And then probably the more damaging one is the State Judicial Council came out and said for 90 days after the emergency orders are lifted, there will be no unlawful detainer or eviction cases that are related to COVID-19. So we have to wait for the order to be lifted, which we're not even 100% sure when that's going to be. I'm sure you guys have been watching the news and you see some states are doing it sooner than others. California happens to be one of the states that's not leading the way in reopening the economy. So once they lift those orders, then another clock starts, and that's a 90-day clock. So if you have the unfortunate experience of having a tenant who's not paying, it's going to be a long haul. We've been in contact with our attorney. A lot of them are saying sometime in September, maybe around the end of September, that we will be able to potentially file an eviction. That's assuming the orders get lifted when they're supposed to and the 90 days runs out. But that's kind of the state we're in. I don't personally think it's good for landlords, but it's the rules that are upon us. So there's also one other thing that I think is really important for your consideration. There is Assembly Bill 828. It's being put forth by the same politician who brought us statewide rent control, which is really bad for California landlords. And that is a bill that they are looking to reduce rent by 25% for tenants who are having troubles related to COVID-19. This would be a complete disaster for landlords if we allowed the government to get involved in modifying the contract you have with your tenant. It's not law yet, but now is the time to reach out to your state representatives and voice your opposition to this bill. It's Assembly Bill 828. Take a look at it, and please contact your state representative and voice your opposition to this bill. So what does this mean for how Rincon is operating? First of all, I want to say we have had very minimal impact. I was anticipating a greater impact. Really, we're doing quite well. So in April, we had, I believe, 95%, 96% of our tenants paid rent in full. And then in May, we're right around the same number. So we do have a couple new cases, but a couple of our old cases from April were able to catch up. And so what are we doing if we have a tenant who's having trouble? One, we're making sure that they are aware of the resources available to them, whether it's unemployment or an SBA loan and grant. There's stuff out there that is designed to help. Applying for those programs takes time, and a lot of our tenants applied early and they're just now starting to get assistance from the government. So the first thing we do is make sure that they know what's available to them. After that, we are trying to negotiate payment arrangements with them if they can't pay their rent in full. And understand if that happens, we are absolutely including you, our client, in that process and getting your expressed approval on any payment arrangements before we make it. So out of the tenants that we have that are having trouble, the majority of them have either cured their delinquency or agreed to a payment plan. We only have a small number who are just refusing to pay, but have notified us that this is because of coronavirus. And the reality is there's not a whole lot we can do as far as compelling them to pay until the eviction moratorium is lifted. So if that's the case, we're going to have to wait till probably around the end of September if everything goes well. But for the majority of our tenants, they're paying on time and everything is just fine. Now, if let's say you want your property back, or you're either looking to sell it, or you want to give your tenants notice to vacate. A couple things. A lot of the ordinances in place prohibit that. So what we're doing is we're taking it on a case-by-case basis, because there's so many laws from so many different layers of government, and the laws don't even agree with each other. Some of them are vague, some of them are very specific, and they definitely conflict with each other. So we are handling this on a case-by-case basis. If you think you need your property back, either for a sale or for some other reason, reach out to us, and we are presenting your specific case to our attorney and letting the attorney review all the ordinances, all the laws that potentially affect it, and then they come and give us an opinion on what the best case to move forward is. And we've had good success with that. It definitely provides some clarity for ourselves and for you as our client. There's no way for us to wade through thousands of pages of laws and figure this out on our own. It literally would take hundreds of hours, nor do we have the legal expertise that's required to read through these laws. So that's how we're handling that. So if you are in a position that you need an answer, let us know and we will get an answer for you. I'd like to talk about lease renewals. So we have made the decision to postpone our lease renewals during this crisis. So this is not the environment to be raising people's rent. People are struggling to pay rent. The optics of it would be very poor. So we've decided to postpone our lease renewals, and partly because we've postponed our annual inspections as well, and those two things are closely tied together. So once this passes, we'll resume our inspections, resume lease renewals, and we anticipate modifying that first renewal to get our leases to expire in the most ideal time for finding new tenants, which is generally late spring, early summer. So you may see, depending on when they lift this, not a full 12-month lease renewal. Maybe it's 8 months or 7 months, depending on where we're at. But that's what we're doing with lease renewals, and we're looking out for your best interest and trying to be sensitive to what's actually happening out there. The last thing I want to do is, we have had a handful of our owners contact us about either adding additional properties, purchasing additional investment properties. Some people are looking for opportunities that this crisis creates, and I just want to give a quick update on the leasing side of our business. So we are still filling our vacant properties. There's probably been a little pullback in interest, but nothing to slow down leasing properties. So we are actively leasing properties. We have a lot of people interested in them. Obviously, we're modifying the way we do it related to the virus. Only self-showings, masks, that kind of thing when we do the showings. But the good news is we are renting properties. So if you're interested in adding properties or looking at purchasing more, please don't let this virus slow you down. We are still renting our properties out. Thanks for your time. I know it was a little bit of a long video. We will continue to keep you updated on what's going on. If any of your tenants are having specific problems, we will reach out directly to you. If you don't hear from us, and that means your tenant's in good shape, they're paying the rent. The second there's a problem, we will reach out to you. So please don't think that bad things are happening if you don't hear from us. It's quite the opposite. So I hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully we can all be done with this in the very near future. I know that's my wish, and I'm sure everybody else's as well. So please, if you have any questions or any feedback, reach out to us. Hope you guys are doing good.